Howdy folks, this is a 2024 Hyundai Kona Limited front wheel drive. That's right, it's not a hybrid, they do make them for other markets, and it's not the EV. Well, it looks a lot like it. This is a brand new body design. It's actually been stretched just about 6 inches, so it's a longer vehicle than it was before. For the entry-level segment that this goes into, it's a little pricey, and we're gonna get to the price at the end. But I say that other than a couple minor flaws, this is the bargain of the century. Struts? Oh my word, this is like a Mercedes-Benz. Just kidding. This is a 1.6 liter turbocharged engine that puts out 190 horsepower and 195 pound-feet of torque. Yeah, powering the front wheels through an 8-speed automatic transmission. I said automatic, I didn't say dual clutch, that's right, because they got rid of the dual clutch. It used to have a 7-speed dual clutch. We didn't like the 7-speed dual clutch, neither did many of you. This is a much better idea. Now, there is an all-wheel drive variant of this car that is available. That's going to cost you more, obviously. But in this, guys, this setup, the way it is right now, MPG combined is 28 MPG, and that is pretty good. One final note about this engine. Doesn't sound great. Sounds a little thumpy to me. If they're going to put a turbo in a car, I would say make the exhaust a little bit more lively. But maybe that's me, and normally old men like me get all grumpy when they hear noises. Roman gets mad at puppies when they whine. So overall, good powertrain. I kind of wish this powertrain was actually in my Hyundai. That's a whole different story. And yes, you can get it with all-wheel drive. Now, I hope you guys know that I am sacrificing myself by not listening to Black Sabbath right now in order to do this review for you. Understand that that's difficult for me. Okay. I'm going to put this into drive. Once again, I'm not a big fan of this gear lever shifter thingy. A couple things I wanted to mention right off the bat. Now, I recently got this kind of nasty email. We get them all the time because, jealousy of, my relationship with people's moms and all that. So here's the thing. Somebody sent me this note saying, you don't enjoy testing expensive high-end vehicles. Is it because you lack ambition? I swear to God, that's what this email said. And I won't mention the name except his name is John. The reason I enjoy reviewing the lower end of vehicles for the TFL staff is because I know what it's like to not really have dough and to aspire to have something cool for not a lot of money. To drive a vehicle that gives you so much for the money. And frankly speaking, I think that makes people feel better, and happier people makes for less Romans on the road. That is really important stuff because, honestly, all joking aside, don't we all deserve a break? And this car gives you that. Aside from good brakes that I would slam out my brakes and give the poor cameraman a concussion, it has good acceleration too. But it takes a second. Did you see that? I'll show you again in just a moment. Turbo lag, and it's really noticeable in this, but it still has really good power. This does have 19-inch wheels, and it's got Kumo tires slapped on them. Not exactly what I would put on here, I think. I would probably like to have something like 18s on much lighter weight wheels, perhaps, and then some grippier tires, maybe, or more off-roady tires. Okay, here we go. By the way, I'm going to show this off too. This is the coolest thing in the world. But first, okay, let's accelerate. Hey, I know it sounded like coitus, but there it is. It takes time. There's this really long pause. The good news is that once you're up to speed and you want to punch it and get around vehicles, this has it where it counts. See this design element going all the way across the front end? This is a driving light, and the whole bar lights up. I think it looks really cool, but here's the cool part. You're gonna see this on more and more Hyundai products in the future. As a matter of fact, over in Korea, They have a new minivan. I'm talking about minivans, but check this out. I think it's called the Staria. And basically, this is all that's in the front of it. This front end here, and it looks Blade Runner-like cool. It is so futuristic looking, it actually makes a minivan look cool. And this is the design element they have. However, because this still is a Hyundai Kona, it has all the design elements of the previous one in the front especially. So you can see it here, and there's a bit of a carryover of its old design element in the front as well to make it look kind of like a roughy-tufty off-roader, but it's really not. You know why? 8.4 inches of ground clearance. That ain't a lot. If you back up a little bit and look at the entire vehicle, you're gonna really see that extra length. And that is not only good for men, but good for this design. Why? Because you have extra room back here. By the way, I want to show you something else. This design element to me really catches my eye. Check out how they have this kind of chrome pewter line coming up here, right? But then they have this other line coming across here. So this vehicle, see, it's rated X, or it's like an X-Man. For those of you who are into Marvel, it's a comic thing. I'd explain that to Roman with pictures. Okay, back here, interesting little component because they still have this color here, this pewter, but then they have this upper driving light, which I think is actually really cool looking. They spent some real time doing little things that made me happy as somebody who appreciates a little bit of work to make things look a little bit fresh. Let's pop open the back. Can you believe a vehicle in this bracket has this? That's just really cool. I didn't think they had that. Okay, but what you're looking at back there is pretty good space. It's actually 25.5 cubic feet of cargo space, and it's 63.7 cubic feet of cargo space if I fold the seats down. Now down here, bam, there's even more room. Now you could, in theory, put a donut back here. However, remember, this vehicle can be an electric vehicle, so you can have this area as storage for your plug, your J, whatever they're going to be using in the future, because I honestly don't know if they're going to give you one of the J1772s, I think it is, or 1772, whatever it is, or if they're going to give you the Tesla thing in the future. That doesn't really matter. What matters is on this particular vehicle, because there's no battery back here, you have that extra storage space down there. Let me show you what I can do with the seats though, so stay right there. I'm going to take this and blam! Just that easy. Nice and flat, but not completely flat. So there's a slight rake that goes uphill. However, the room back here is considerably more than the vehicle it replaces. And I'm going to show you that once I hop inside. Okay, in I go, and I'm holding the key in my hand for a good reason. That reason is Case. When Case came back from the Hyundai event, he rarely gets emotional, but he got so mad talking about this. This is their key, and it's actually a fairly decent key fob in terms of what it gives you, all the little components here, plus there's extra stuff here, opening doors and blah, blah, blah. But look at that. It says H if you do it that way. What he doesn't like is the fact that it's very unsubstantial. If you were to hold it in your hand, it feels kind of like cheap plastic. 12.3-inch screen here and here. I like this new design that they're using throughout a variety of different products from Hyundai and Kia. This is slightly angled, so it comes out here, slightly canted towards the driver, just enough, I think, to get a good view of everything that's going on, and at the same time, very clear layout. And yes, buttons. Buttons galore and nubbies. Yes, not just volume, but tuning. Thank you so much. I'm so glad they're not screen-controlled little things. This is just so much better. You can actually feel something when you click it. I like that. And then there's even more actual buttons here. Yes, thank you. And yes, your eyes do not deceive you. That is a cooled or ventilated seat and a heated seat. Sorry, the other way around. That's a cooled seat and that's a heated seat. Sorry, not wearing my proper glasses. Okay, then you've got drive mode. Now, if I move this, if you look up here, I've got a total of 2. That's it. That's all this thing does? Yeah, it does. And there's a reason for that. So if this was the electric version of this vehicle, and I'm guessing the hybrid version, you'd be able to select more things using this knob, because almost everything in this vehicle is in the same place that it would be with the electric version of it. Simply put, it's much less expensive to build a vehicle that way. You use one platform and all the electronics, or as many as you can use, with a variety of different powertrain. One final thing I wanted to point out, it's probably the only part of this entire interior I'm not a big fan of. By the way, the seats are fine. A little small for my large American booty, but I'm used to that. This I don't like. This is their gear lever selector thing, panel component. So this is park, hit P, drive is up, reverse is down, and I'm just not a happy camper using this thing. I used one of these the entire time I was driving an Ioniq 5 cross country, and yeah, you get used to it after a while. I don't like its placement. I don't like its function, personally speaking. I know some of you guys who are like the Hyundai Roddy are going to be like, oh, how dare you? This is perfect. Yeah, it's just not, personally speaking, I'm not into it. First of all, I want to show you this. Watch. Right turn signal. That's the camera. Dude, that is so cool. I love that. Here's the left camera over there. They've had this for a little while, Hyundai and Kia. And I just think it's such a cool idea. All right, I just went around that corner pretty easily. However, I took that corner earlier going faster. And the car didn't like it. Didn't like it at all. It leans a bit. It's got a bit of a high roof. And it's just not really equipped suspension-wise to bound through that corner with tight grip. If you want that, you're going to have to step up to the end, and I have not driven that, and I would imagine it's going to handle a lot better. This is a commuter, and everything about it really does feel like a very comfortable commuter. I love the fact, though, that these seats have, they're heated and they're cooled, and they got a power adjustment, and you have this really cool screen setup and outstanding infotainment setup. Very good heating and air conditioning layout. Overall, just a really cool car. All right, now I have the seat almost all the way back. I am 6'1". I am wearing size 13 boots, and they fit nicely under the seat in front of me. I actually have pretty decent leg room. And headroom's really good too. Actually, I got a lot more room. The previous Kona, I was really uncomfortable sitting in the back seat. That was its biggest flaw to me. I complained about it openly. Some of you yelled at me because how dare I complain? But this one is better. Now, look here. Ha-ha! Proper vents back here. USB-Cs, a couple more. One final note back here. I gotta tell you, back seats for my back, not that comfortable. But for small people who are your kids and have to depend on you for food, and if they want to complain while they're back here, well, then you don't really have to listen to them. But otherwise, it's just a shame because there's so much room back here. Just wish these seats were more comfortable. I have the sticker right here. And I'm not going to let you read it because I have a chicken scratch here and there are bad words about people's mothers. But I will say this. This vehicle comes in with an MSRP of $33,645. Bear in mind, this is the limited, and it is as loaded as it can be, right? That is a lot of dough. As I mentioned earlier, you can get a naturally aspirated, hence weaker version of this vehicle for around $24 as a starting price, but good luck getting one for less than $25. But do I think this is worth it? Well, driving dynamics, having a turbocharger really does help, but it's really not fast. I mean, you'd have to get the N version of this, and that's going to be extremely expensive by comparison. That's a whole different animal. This can get out of its own way. It is remarkably comfortable, fairly damn quiet for what I consider an inexpensive vehicle. Gives you a ton of kit for the money. That's where this thing is such a bargain. I cannot think of another vehicle that competes with this in this class that gives you quite as much for the money. The only thing I would say is I would want all-wheel drive standard for that price. That's probably my biggest issue. But with that being said, aside from the fact that it can be a little wallowy in corners, as a day-to-day driver, this thing is outstanding. Thanks for joining me for the Fast Lane Car and all the other million channels we have. This is Nathan, and I'll see you next time.